All right. Hey, everybody. So, yeah, about that end of service announcement. Yeah. Well, what can you do? So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure really like how to kind of approach this. Like, I've been doing GBM content for almost 4 years now, so it feels really weird to me to suddenly kind of have that just gone, but it's what it is. For those of you that are on my Discord, I was chatting with some of you earlier today, and I did kind of throw some ideas out I've been juggling around for what I'm going to be doing for content going forward. Yeah, it's something. Anyways, so this stream is mostly just kind of wrap up on GBM below the rest of my Haro chips, and yeah, that'll pretty much be it for GBM, I guess, for me. Yeah, what am I going to do in the future, Miguel? So here's the thing, right? I had expected Gundam Battle Operation 2 to be functioning and working on Steam last year, and I was planning on integrating that into kind of a more regular streaming thing, and kind of have that, because mobile games, right? They do eventually EOS. I wasn't sure how long this game was going to last for. But like most things, right, it eventually will come to an end. I'm actually really happy it lasted as long as it did. But with GBO2 in its, I guess, technically third open beta, also, I recommend, if you guys haven't, definitely try GBO2. It's on Steam right now, free. Its OBT runs for pretty much, what, like 5 more days or something, so you can download it and try it. And yeah, it's a great game. Highly recommend it. I've been looking forward to this game on Steam for years. I don't know if you guys saw the video I did. It must have been 2.5 years ago or something like that. But I did play GBO2 on my PlayStation, and I recorded my impression of it. Man, it's good. I love it. Anyways, beyond that, I was thinking Eternal would be out by now, or we would have some more news about that. We haven't heard anything about that yet, though. That game's also just kind of gone under the radar, just kind of disappeared. But I haven't heard it's been canceled yet, so I'm assuming that, you know, everything's fine. Yeah. Did a lot for the GBM community. Yeah, thanks, Jen. I did try, right? Like, at the beginning, I did try really, really hard to make sure everyone had all the information they needed with the, you know, what part should you pick, all these other types of videos. But after a while, like, a lot of them just didn't really become feasible to keep doing because it wasn't relevant anymore, which kind of sucks, but that's what happens when the game gets, you know, old enough. Thanks for going through content creators. Appreciate that. Yeah, no problem, Derek. That's why I made all the content, right? I actually... So, I just recently got a couple more videos in the pipeline that I'm working on, and I realized I've made almost 400 videos, and that's between normal video content and live streams for GBM. That is unbelievable, right? I'm pushing like almost, because some of my streams would run like 2 hours, right? I probably am pushing somewhere near 1,000 hours worth of content, whether video format or live stream format for GBM, and that blows my mind. Like, oh boy. Yeah. On the bright side, no more altars keeping you awake. Oh my lord. I know. So, okay. It's like a monkey's paw, right? I don't want to keep doing altars. The monkey paw curls. No more game. It's bittersweet, honestly. Grinding out GBM content. It's been the mainstay for my channel for years now, right? I started with Sino Alice content. doing like tutorials on that game, but I stopped doing it rather quickly and I transitioned into GBM because between the two IPs, I'm a much larger fan of Gundam than I ever have been Yoko Taro Sinnoh Alice. Not saying that Yoko Taro stuff's bad, it's just Gundam. How do you fight that, right? But yeah, it's just gonna be so weird not doing the every other Tuesday night stream talking about new content, GBM stuff. It's gonna be so alien, you know. Anyways, let's get that gacha roll stuff started because I'm pretty sure those new banners have kicked in, and we'll go from there. Are they releasing Code Fairy on Steam? So I don't know. I don't see a reasonable reason why they wouldn't, but I have no information on that front. So, all right, GBM Appreciation Festival capsules. What's even in here? It's just like everything, is it? Effectively. So we got a long roll cycle ahead of us, gang. Let's get cracking. We got a long, because they're doing 500 for a 10x. We're gonna be here a while. Look at that. We still have a suit to review. So, in all honesty, with the announcement of end of service, I don't see a ton of reason to continue doing part reviews at this point, for the obvious reason of EOS. I could very well make this kind of the final stream review kind of deal, but at the end of the day, so I am actually right now up to my knees in trying to get a video project finished as soon as possible because I need to get it looked over, because tomorrow it goes live and I need to make sure everything is kosher before that. With that in mind, I'm kind of on a tight schedule right now to get that finished and get it looked over. So I don't want to rush this stream, but I also can't make it like a 2-hour stream, you know? Any hints you can drop as to what might come in the future, Gundam? So, nothing I'm aware of. Like, here's the thing, right? I have been hounding for news about Eternal. Like, I swear almost every 2 or 3 days, it's like, hey, got any Eternal news for me, buddy? And really, there's really not a lot said about it. But Not Dead, that's the best I got, right? As for anything outside of GBO2 or Eternal, I haven't heard anything. I'm going to assume that there's something coming, but I couldn't tell you what. Right, we have like the Gundam Metaverse or whatever. God, they need to rebrand that. But like we have the Gundam Metaverse stuff as well. Make of that what you will. But yeah. So just to be clear, no more new content, no more ways to get Haru. Honestly, Jun, when I saw the announcement for the service termination, my brain just kind of went, I just kind of stopped reading at that point. It's like, game is dead. There's the date. And I would imagine that at some point between now and the actual end of service, they're probably just going to disable the need for Haru because, you know, what's the point of it right now, right? But we'll see. I need to stop hitting skip and actually letting the animation play out. I'm so used to hitting skip whenever I do gacha stuff. But yeah. It's so sad that most mobile games are closing. So Miguel, it's interesting, but this is technically the end of Japan's like fiscal year. So pretty much this is the period of time where all of the businessmen get sat down, they get the projections, the costs, like everything. It's like, okay, here's what made us money, here's what didn't make us money, here's the trends for all of these different projects we have going, and they look at it and go, hey, so that's not making us money, get rid of it. I don't know if that's actually what happened with GBM. I don't know if they just, as someone else said, right, all the devs were moved to Eternal or something. I'm not sure. But the reason that a lot of the games are kind of EOSing right now or in the very near future is because, you know, it's time to renew the licenses for overseas, right? That's why Princess Connect is closing. The game's not bringing in enough money to warrant, you know, having all these people developing and working on it, whatever, right? That's why other games are closing. So at the end of the day, right, there's like a lot of reasons a game can just EOS and close down. So Eternal might get remade so it can be on console. I don't see that happening, honestly. Gundam Eternal definitely feels like a mobile game through and through, and I don't think it'll be something that really like thrives on a console. Yeah, they might, right? For all I know, they actually might, but I don't think that'll be the case, really. Eternal was fun, made it pretty far in the beta, needs more suits and unlockable content. Well, okay, yeah, sure, but gotta remember, right, the first Eternal playtest demo thing that we did was literally a, like, hey guys, here's a game, can you make sure it doesn't, like, light on fire as soon as you try to launch it, right? It wasn't even like a network test, it was a closed beta. It was very much a, you know, proof of concept kind of build. So the fact that it was lacking a ton of content shouldn't be too surprising. Now, one thing I am going to say, I am surprised that people in the community that are known for data mining weren't able to either A, data mine Eternal, or 2, get any actual information from the game that wasn't readily presented. To put it nicely, games published by Bandai Namco have had a really bad track record of a lot of data being available in the game before launch, right? That's what happened with Tales of Historia, where pretty much like the entire game got dumped like almost right away, in the beta nonetheless. Tales of Luminaria got mined really quickly as well, and then they started cutting back the data and only implementing on patch days and stuff. But it seems to be like a real habit with the games that they publish, and there was a recent one that had the same issue as well. But the fact that Eternal launched the beta and no untoward data got dumped out, I was actually really impressed by that. So, yeah. They do need more mobile suits, they need more to do, but it was a beta build, closed beta nonetheless. I have really high hopes for Eternal down the line. Yeah. No, it's yeah. I'm just watching out the videos. Really, I'll miss making them, honestly. Having that like scheduled stream, just kind of sit down and talk Mobile Suit was really nice. That's why I was hoping there'd be like a replacement kind of Gundam game to come out, so I'd have something else to talk about. But I'm also really hesitant about like GBO2 content because I love the game and I want to play it. But there's already very established creators doing it. They have way more knowledge of the game than I do. They live and breathe it. They're just so intelligent when it comes to that game, right? I don't want to kick the door down and be like, you know, yeah, I'm going to talk about this game now. And it's just like, oh boy. That's where you just instantly get compared to all the, you know, the big ones on it, right? So I've been looking for a newer game, and that's why I was hoping Eternal would be out by now. That's why I was hoping there'd be another good mobile game that launched and kept my attention, right? I was thinking maybe Neural Cloud, but even Neural Cloud really didn't do it for me. It was fun at the beginning, but kind of fell off. So yeah, it's kind of, yeah, gonna play any other games after this. So I still do actively play other games. I still play Grand Blue Fantasy very actively. Every day I'm on that grind playing it. Fate Grand Order, it's kind of, what's the word? It's not entirely truthful to say I actively play Fate Grand Order, but I log on every day. I transform my AP into apples, and I wait for a lotto event, and then I grind the ever-loving crap out of it. New story content chapter drops, right? I'm playing that. I don't know if you guys were there for it, but I did do a live stream of me clearing the new Lost Belt chapter. God, that was a long stream. So there are still other games I do play. Outside of that, right? I play Final Fantasy 14. I still play a little bit of Gundam Evolution here and there with friends. You know, not that often now, though, because a lot of them stopped playing it, which kind of sucks. It was a fun game. But yeah. So there's other games I currently play. It's just none of them are really, I think, like, stream-worthy for, like, day-to-day kind of stuff, right? How about a playthrough SRW 30 while waiting for Eternal? So I had this conversation earlier today in my Discord. I have a very specific genre game that I really like to play. I'm not... When I say I'm not a fan of certain genres or games, it's not that I don't like it. It's just that there's other things I would rather play when given kind of carte blanche options, right? SRW 30, Fire Emblem, all these, the tactical style of game. I don't mind them at all. I find them quite fun. I like being able to build up my units and play them. The issue I have with, let's say, Fire Emblem is typically it's a very linear game. You start, you have your characters, you play them for X amount of missions, you get to the final boss, you beat it, cool. The problem I have with that kind of thing is I don't really get to enjoy playing as the characters I like for very long, because there's a finite duration of the campaign, and sometimes the characters I like are unlocked very late in the game relative to where the end of the campaign is. And something like Super Robot Wars does it a little better. I can play my favorite suits, and I have a lot longer period of time to enjoy playing as them, because there's no real finite end to it. You can always go back, do older missions and whatnot just fine. So that's cool. But given the option, because I have options, I'm trying to determine what I want to play, I would prefer a game where I can actively play as a single character, a single mobile suit, or something that I have an attachment to for an extended period. It was one of the reasons that drew me to play Genshin Impact, was if I got a character I really liked, I could just run around the open world with them, play the game as them, enjoy the character itself. Right? If they turned Genshin Impact into a more tactical style game, wouldn't be my jam, even if it was the exact same stuff. Right? I stopped playing Genshin for a multitude of reasons. But I love the open world, the exploration, all that. Fire Emblem Warriors, right? The more Dynasty Warrior style game. I love that because I got a character, I love playing as them, and I could play the maps as much as I want, focusing on that character and kind of, immerse myself in that and enjoying it. When it comes to something like Super Robot Wars, right, I can still play my favorites, but I don't get to play them as in-depth. Typically, hey, Gacha, you're repaired. Typically, a lot of the time as well, right, you're not going to have a lot of big character building interactions, because just the general way the game story works, and that's fine. Right? I'm looking at what games I want to play in the future, and some people said maybe a Tales game. And maybe, actually, I may do a fully streamed run-through of Tales of Arise. I have to double-check the streaming embargo on that, though. I think they still have said you can't stream certain parts of the game, and they never changed that. There's games, older games like Tales of Vesperia. I'd be okay to do another run-through of that. That just takes a very long time to complete. I would be over the moon to play Golden Sun from start to finish on stream. That was one of my favorite, actually no, it is my favorite JRPG that I think I've ever had the pleasure of just sitting down and going through, right? I would love to do Golden Sun and Golden Sun The Lost Age, but I'm also very well aware that it's not really of much interest to a lot of people, right? It's a rather intricate, story-driven JRPG. If you watched a stream, missed the next stream, and then came back, there would be a ton of context that if you've never played it, you'd have no idea about, right? So I want to try to find something where it's a game that falls into kind of my bracket of what I really, really enjoy, while simultaneously being something that, as someone that watches me play it on stream, you don't have to be there for every single second of it, because I'm well aware that's just not a feasible thing to ask for a lot of people, right? You got lives, you got other things that you want to do, other stuff you want to watch, play, do. I can't expect people to be there for my entire stream start to finish, right? So it's like, even something like Persona 5, I've been contemplating picking that up on Steam and doing my new game plus because I've already done my double plus on the PlayStation version of it, right? Another run through. Because even though that's also story driven, it's much more troped, I think is the best way to kind of phrase it. It has a very not linear, but a predictable story, one where even if you missed like 6, 7, 8 hours of me playing it and you came back, there's really not a lot to have missed there. But there's a lot of other JRPGs I'd love to play where it's very much different in that you miss a little bit of the story and suddenly none of the dialogue makes sense. And, you know, why are you here? What's the point of this, right? Why are you suddenly halfway across the world, right? So there's a lot of contemplation, because whenever I do this kind of streaming content, I want to try to make it something that I would personally enjoy watching as well. And I don't want to make content that's like, if I stream, I want to stream something that I would watch. That's pretty much it. Not like the game that I'm playing is something I'd watch, because I would be streaming Golden Sun or whatever. But I mean, from the perspective of someone watching a stream, I want something that's easy to just kind of hop in, hop out of. I don't need to know every single specific of the game, right? So I'm kind of self-limiting myself, like what I can do, but I feel like that's kind of just important. More paid DLC in GBA gives growth suits. Man, there's so many cool suits I'd love in Battle Alliance. That's another game that fits that bill perfectly, right? I get to pick my favorite suit, I get to upgrade it, develop it, and just play as it over and over and over and enjoy it. And I love that. GBA was such a good game. Holy crap. Did you have a GB3 break for PS4? Yeah, I do actually. It's an import. I actually picked it up. Oh, how many years ago was this? I think. When did I get this? Oh my lord. A long time ago. I'm just looking at the inside because I still have the day one bonus card in the box. That's like 6, 7 years ago now. But yeah, I do have a copy of that. That might be an idea to actually play. That's a good one actually. Thank you for that idea. That could be a good one. GVM and you get the version called the DLC. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. Let's see here. What else do I have in my magical old game drawer? These aren't PS4, unfortunately. Makes it a little difficult because, you know, like PS4 is all the way over there. But like we got the day one edition of can I get it without the glare? Yeah, Star Ocean. I got Lacrimosa of Dana. Yeah, the ring light's nice, but it really makes it hard to see things that have reflective surfaces. And honestly, one of my more favorite Tales games, Berseria. So I have options. I have a lot of these on PC as well. So I'll see. GBM EOSing like this really threw a wrench into my streaming plans. Let me tell you what. Nice list. Yeah, So I don't actually have a lot of RPGs on my PlayStation because, so many years ago, I bought my PlayStation 4 very shortly after Persona 5 got announced. So we had that initial trailer for it. And then I was driving home from work one day and I saw that EB Games was having a sale. And I was like, all right, I'll stop by and check it out. Sure, maybe they got something, you know, maybe some controllers or something I can pick up. I go in, and they have PS4s on sale. They were like 20% off. And I was like, damn. Because this is back when PS4s were still relatively new. So I picked one up off the shelf, 20% off. I was like, heck yeah, Persona 5 on the way? Great investment. I kind of sat there for a while because I don't know if you guys know, but Persona 5, between its announcement and release, there was a huge span of time. But during that time, I picked up like Gravity Rush. Oh, Gravity Rush was so good. Holy crap. We had Gundam Breaker 3 that I found when I was at a convention, so I picked that up. We had obviously Persona 5 when that released. You know, there's a whole bunch of games I picked up kind of on the way, but I played RPGs primarily on my Game Boy Advance, my DS. I picked it up on some of them on PS2. There was mostly the Persona franchise and the older Gust games. That's like Axel Iris, Monachemia, Artanelico, right? The entire like AT project, effectively. Yeah, so my RPG pool wasn't so much PS4, it was more on like almost every other console. Do you have a Switch? So I do have a Switch. I don't play it too much. So funny story, I was planning on doing, because Dokapon Kingdom, I don't know if you guys have played Dokapon Kingdom, and honestly, I don't care, but that is one of the single best party games I've ever played in my entire life. It's clean, it's fun, and I know people go, Mario Party's the destroyer of friendships. Man, they got nothing on Dokapon Kingdom. It's like playing in the sandbox versus actually going to like a beach and having fun, man. It's just no comparison. So with Dokapon Kingdom announcing its remaster on the Switch, I was like, oh, I could do some content on that. But then, you know, the portion of my brain that's actually smart was like, yeah, except you don't have any friends that can put away like 7 to 8 hours every couple of days to do Dokapon, you know, content. Good job, brain. Yeah, you reminded me. So I was like, do I do a single player campaign on that? Like, what should I do with this? But I really do want to do like some Dokapon Kingdom content because that game's just so much fun. But I know that I won't be able to really reel in a lot of friends to it because that's a big project. First time catching a stream, but want to thank you for. Thanks, McLeod. Yeah, I've it's been a while with the GBM stuff. It's been a long while, almost 4 years. 10 out of 10. If you have a PS2 emulator, actual MS Saga and New Dawn, if you want a Gundam themed JRPG. I've heard of it, and I do actually have a functioning PS2 that I still actively play games on, because I love the PS2. So I'll take a look. Never did get that Win Zero Snow White edition. Yeah, I was really hoping we would see that. I was really hoping we would see the Amaterasu. There's a lot of suits I was really hoping we would see in this, and it just never came to fruition, unfortunately. Who knows? GBM 2, right? Just bank on that. If the next Gundam Breaker game is for console, I bet I make paid DLC Extremer Versus. So, if they made a good new Gundam Breaker game, I would be very interested in picking it up and playing it, because Breaker 3 is a lot of fun, and it was something that gave me many hours of enjoyment after picking that up and bringing it home. But at the same time, I said this back when I first started playing GBM, or back then it was GBGW, but my favorite Gundam game to date is still Alliance vs. SAF 2 Plus for a handful of reasons. The engine that it was running on, that the combat, I think has been my favorite. It felt not super arcadey like the successors to that kind of branch of the franchise have become, which is fine, right? It's just not my style. I like, so you have like the Gundam Versus branch of the games, right, where it's super arcadey, super snappy. It feels more like you're playing like an arcade game, and that's perfectly fine. And then you have like your GBO2 branch of the games where it's like super slow, realistic, clunkier. You actually are piloting a giant mecha suit and not a dude in a 50-foot Gundam outfit, right? So there's plus and minuses to both sides of it. I like kind of that thing it was before all of that, where it had the arcade style beginnings, but it still had the slower clunkiness, and it was this like nice healthy mash in the middle. And it had a really good selection of suits I enjoyed playing because that was what I grew up with, Gundam Seed, right? That was my first real exposure to it. So definitely a lot of bias involved. But I feel like if they went kind of to that and gave us just a larger suit selection, I would have a lot of fun with that. That's kind of like my personal like wish list kind of thing for Gundam. Bring back that more balanced between arcade and realistic kind of thing, and also add the crazy suits in there, stuff that you can ban online and go, hey, yeah, you can't use this against other players online because that's just not fair. But for like couch co-op, you're playing friendlies against your buddy online, why can't I play, you know, the Neo Zong? Why can't I play the Destroy? Why can't I, you know, use these crazy things like the Freedom with the Meteor, right? Let us go crazy with that. But yeah, it's just kind of like my wish list there for it. Oops, lost chat there for a second. Trying to make sure I keep up with what people are saying because there's a lot of text. If the next GB games for console bundle and make units of DLC for console. The next Gundam game attached and no replacement, they would keep this running for another year plus. The thing is, it's so hard to justify keeping a game running when it's not bringing in profit, right? Like, it is so difficult to be like, it'll pick up if we do this, this, and this, because a lot of the time these ideas require a lot of like rewriting, and that's just an investment. Is it really worth dumping all of this money into this game? Because by 4 years almost, you kind of have a really good idea of how many people you have that are going to spend money, how much they're going to spend, what they're going to spend it on, and why they're spending it, right? And with those and projections, you can tell pretty easily whether or not it's going to be feasible to keep going. So remember, it is very, very rare for a gacha game to go longer than 2 years. The normal expected lifespan for a gacha game is typically between 1 to 2 years. If it goes longer than that, excellent. It is a complete outlier when it lasts for longer than 4 or 5 years. Those are the really crazy ones that either are driven by IP or they have just such a crazy staying power from something they've done, right? Like, I see Blue Archive continuing for a really, really long time, right? We see Grand Blue Fantasies. It's a juggernaut. It's not stopping anytime soon, right? Fate Grand Order, much in the same vein. It's carried by the IP name at this point, right? Even though the gameplay is old and boring and not being updated or maintained, I just don't see it stopping anytime soon. So it's just something to keep in mind. This game lasted almost 4 years. That's above average as far as mobile games go. It's a shame it didn't go longer, but for what it is, it did really well. Did they give an official reason onto why it's closed? No, they never did. you can see the official announcement there on the right side of the stream, and that's pretty much their official stance on games closing. As for what happened behind closed doors, I have no idea. So it's all just conjecture, really. Whether it's because the fiscal year reported poorly, whether it's because they're like, all right, you know what, we don't want to keep our devs on here, we need them on new projects. Who knows? Honestly, no one knows except Bandai Namco, and they're not telling us. And that's fine. Makes me think of Brave Frontier, but yeah, there are some games that just live for way longer than they should, but most gacha mobile games don't have a very long shelf life. Like, for all the really popular ones that we've had, think about how many have failed simultaneously, or how many of them are on life support as it is, right? It's crazy. I think a lot of people have kind of seen, like, oh, you know, Genshin came out, and then the year after you had this game, then the year after you had that game, and it's like, why didn't this game live so long? Well, you know, for every, you know, Genshin level success, there's like 100, 150 games that don't even live like a year and a half, right? We had mobile games launch and they were down and end of service announced like, what, a month afterwards, right? Like, there are some really, really unfortunate mobile games out there. So seeing a game last years is really, really good. Lots of people don't understand how mobile games work, needs money from gacha to survive. So I think a lot of people know how gacha works, and they understand that, you know, the gacha system is how they survive. But I think a lot of people seem to misunderstand kind of. So I know I've said this before on stream. It's been a while since I've said it. But when it comes to a gacha game, the only way you're going to succeed in the long term is if you make sure you cater to your free-to-play player base enough to keep them around. You have to make sure the gameplay is enthralling. You have to make sure that the daily loot cycle is fun and accessible to players that don't have a lot of stuff, people that don't spend any money, and all of these factors. And the reason for that is if someone wants to come into the game, spend money and whale, they're going to want people to flex on it. Like, they that's it. That's the main drive for a lot of the people that spend a lot of money. They're there to be better than everyone else. And you know what? If you're going to spend money on the game, you absolutely deserve that little badge of honor for it. You're keeping the game going. Kudos to you. You can beat me in PvP every day of the week. Just keep the game going. But the problem is, once your free-to-play player base starts dropping off, whether because you made the experience not fun, whether it's because you decided to give way too many advantages to whales and free-to-play players just don't have any chance to really compete or do anything, pretty much, you do the free-to-play players poorly, they leave. Your whales start having less people to show off to and spend less reason to spend money effectively, and then they're going to quit the game and go to the brand new flavor of the month that released because they can roll on that one with their wallet, get a bunch of cool characters, and show off to the player base there instead. And I don't know if that was a problem with GBM. I don't know if it started hemorrhaging a lot of its free-to-play player base after, 3.5 years because they really didn't innovate end game. But that's, I think, one of the major reasons a lot of gacha games are doing very poorly or on life support is they never gave free-to-play players enough ground to stand on to feel like they should stick around and play. But every game that I see right now succeeding is very friendly to free-to-play players. There's a couple of exceptions to this, but overwhelmingly the free-to-play players come out on top, and that keeps the whales around to spend money. And simultaneously, when a free-to-play person has put a year of their life into a game, you can probably get like $5 or $10 off of them for like an anniversary skin or something without much difficulty, because to them, that's earned, right? It's less than $1 a month worth to, you support the game, right? So, yeah. I do hope that Gundam Breaker Mobile does see some form of sequel. The story did end on kind of a very weird note, just kind of like a full stop kind of thing, not really a comfortable closure, so to speak. But yeah, I'm hoping that we do see some form of sequel for it at some point in the future. I think that'd be really nice. I don't know if it'd be on console, if it'd be on mobile, or what. Kind of hope to give an HDR at some point as a final farewell. I would say it's safe to assume that we're probably not going to see any new content. It's most likely just going to be recycled older content, because I would... Now, of course, I don't know. This is purely based on other games and their end-of-service announcements. But even before end of service is announced, they've already completely halted development, right? This isn't something that they go to lunch over one day and go, hey, so these projections really aren't that great. We should probably kill the game. Take a bite of the sandwich. The other guy goes, yeah, you know what? We should probably EOS it. Tell the gang tomorrow we'll send out the EOS notice. This stuff's typically planned out like months in advance, and I would assume that, like most games, the flow of new content stopped a while back, and now we're just kind of getting the last little bits. And yeah, I wouldn't expect any actual like new content. They most likely just went up to the guys creating the new, or getting the new suit models in the game and said, hey guys, yeah, so I know the last suit you made was this, but that's it. We're done. We're moving you to a different project. I can't. It's very rare to see new content added, because that's just more investment kind of stuff into a project that's already announced end of service. I'm saving my horror for the next SoCai if there is one. If not, I'm spending it all. You do you. I'm going to assume that this is like the de facto final banner for the game, because it has everything in it. And as you can see, the rates are absolutely ridiculous. Guaranteed a 6-star every roll with maxed out sub rolls. But yeah, and just keep rolling. Server's gonna end. Are they giving good stuff? I would assume so. I'm going to assume there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff handed out to the player base over the next few days. But yeah, I don't know, right? So, believe me, guys, I didn't know this was coming as much, like literally the same page as you lads. I had no idea this end of service announcement was happening. I went to bed last night and I was like, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna have to do my normal 2-hour stream tomorrow with all the alterations. And then I wake up and all I see is people pinging me going, hey dude, end of service. And it's like, not like this. They've already closed the shop. You can't purchase horror anymore. Okay, so one thing I'm gonna say, that is a very good choice. So there have been, actually, I think Princess Connect is the current best example of that kind of stuff. I don't know if you guys play Princess Connect, you know what it is or whatever, but it very recently announced end of service. Not even 48 hours after the end of service announcement went out, they put a new player jumpstart pack into the shop for a few dollars that, if you bought it, would let you get very powerful very quickly. And it just felt in very bad taste that they would do that, considering they had just announced end of service for that server only a short while ago. So my opinion is, when you announce end of service for a game, you don't do that. That's not cool. You know, close your cash shop. If anything, make all of the purchases free from that game, because your game's end of service, right? Like, don't turn around and just add more purchases in. That's just not cool. I feel the Gunpla part of Metaverse and G-Gen Eternal getting delayed were nails in the coffin. So, G-Generation Eternal getting delayed, from my understanding of it, because I never got official confirmation, I was never told anything, But from my understanding of it, there was so much feedback about the game that the developers looked at and were most likely like, this is pretty good feedback. They took it to the shop and they're working on it. Now, the only reason I say that is I don't know, you guys might remember, but that trip to Los Angeles that I was part of, I did a video on it, and we got to, a lot of you guys were there as well. Not you guys specifically, but I should say the community was there. During that event, we got to talk with the development team for the game. And they were very interested in hearing our opinions of the game, things they can improve, things that we wanted, things that they should work on. And we gave them all the feedback that we had at that time to help develop the game. And hearing that G-Gen Eternal got a bunch of feedback and they're delaying the game, I only have really good vibes about that. To me, that comes off as they're doing the same thing the GBM team did, where they're like, all right, they got feedback, we should probably listen to this and develop the game in the direction they're talking about. And honestly, I think that is probably the biggest thing any development team can do, is actually listen to the player base and kind of look at what they suggest. I'm not going to say always listen to your audience, because let's be real, if you listen to every single suggestion that players gave you, you would have a miserable game. But at least some of the ideas had to have merit, and I really hope that when that game releases down the line, or we get the next beta test for it, it's more Kshatriya, it's even better. And I wish I had been able to play the beta test for Eternal so I could really give my own feedback and I had more information. But in case you guys forgot, I got region locked out of it. I had to live vicariously through another content creator, the other MC, to even look at the gameplay live as he was doing stuff. So I really hope if there is a next closed beta test, I do get to play it. If there's an open beta test, I'm in there like a dirty shirt. Yo, what up? Sure, what's your name? Dude, the game has really content. Tap on it again?
Oh, you want to play Super Mario again? That way they can.
It's an interesting concept. I'll ignore it for now. Pretty sure we're not going to do that. So we don't, for all we know, they may actually add in like rotational rate ups for specific suits and stuff, so that people that wanted to finish a suit but weren't able to get a part or two get the chance to do it now that the rules are being like super cheap. So they're in the token share. I'm not going to look through all the stuff they added to the shop again. Right, this game is EOS at this point. I don't want to say I've completely abandoned it, but I'm not going to go in like super in depth on anything with it. It's just not worth it anymore. They're giving you a pick ticket everywhere. Are they now? Let me see. Oh yeah, exclusive park pick ticket. Cool. Man, my inventory is going to be clogged the heck after this. Real shame. But yeah, so I've got to figure out what I'm going to be doing. Because with GBM dead, yeah. I don't know. I'll mull it over. I was planning on doing a GBO2 stream today, but I got really caught up in content creation. I might do a GBO2 stream tomorrow. I'll see if I can hook a couple of my buddies into it to try it out with me. Yeah, we'll go from there. It's just, oh boy, lots to do. Play Tower Fantasy. So I played it for a long time. I played all the way up to just before version 3.0's trailer. The game is fun. I enjoy it quite a bit. However, my issue is, much like with Genshin Impact, the amount of time that it asks from me as a player. And I think it's a very important thing to, at least for me, to keep in mind when I'm playing these games, is I want to make sure that the game respects my time in terms of returns. So I play Tower of Fantasy. I don't open my wallet. I play casually enough. And in between banners, I don't really have a lot of time to get enough currency to roll both the characters and potentially their signature stuff to make them even stronger. Now, the issue with that is a lot like the issue I had with Genshin, where I didn't feel that the game respected my time. It demanded me to play it practically full time just to get the primo gems to be able to more or less guarantee a character in between banners. And I don't think that's really... Same time, I was playing Punishing Grey Raven. I felt that respected my time because the dailies took less than 10 minutes to do a day, and while doing the dailies, you would also do your weeklies. In total, I would be playing PGR for maybe 15 minutes a day at the most, and that would get me all of my dailies, all of my weeklies. If there was an event, I'd maybe take another 10 minutes, for the event as well. And every banner, every new banner, I would always get banner character because that's the way the game was designed. I felt that respected my time. But if I wanted to play Genshin, I'm putting in probably an hour, maybe an hour and a half a day to make sure that I farm all my relics. I do all of my daily, all these things. And it's just not, to me, that's not really a mobile game, right? There are other issues I have with it besides that. Right? Same goes with Honkai Impact. I played that for a while. I had a lot of fun with that game. It's actually one of the main reasons I picked up Punishing Grey Raven when it released, was because it reminded me a lot of Honkai Impact, and I had fun with that. But that was another game that I felt just didn't really respect my time, and I was playing it for way longer than I wanted to. So, right. So that's one of the biggest issues that I'm concerned with for Wuthering Waves. When the trailer for Wuthering Waves first came out, I was very excited for that. But my only concern with it is it goes the route of Genshin, and it starts demanding hours of my time a day to keep up with the gacha currency and everything else. So I'm really, really hoping that's not the case, because I love the PGR combat, the open world exploration, all the little things, like being able to defeat monsters and there's a chance you can capture their soul and use it. I love collectathons like that, the combat-based stuff. God, that's so much fun. It's actually one of the reasons, if any of you played, what was your Ragnarok successor? Tree of Savior. I can't remember the name of the class for the life of me, but it was the one that you could defeat monsters and you had a chance of obtaining a card. And when you used the card, you could effectively use the monster in battle. That was my primary class in that game because I love that concept, right? So I'm really hoping that Wuthering Waves does well. Someone mentioned Star Rail. Star Rail is another game that I plan on playing a lot of. It's turn-based, it's JRPG, it looks absolutely amazing, as Mahoyo games do. But so far, I have been unable to actually play the cursed game. I have gotten access to 2 of the beta tests so far, and in both of them, I have been locked out from participating due to an error on their end, and nobody has any email for me to contact for proper support. None of the admins on their the page, the little secret beta test page on their Discord, none of them actually respond to any inquiries. So I just decided, fuck it, I'll just wait for the actual release. At this point, I'm going in blind. So Honkai Star Rail, I hope, really clicks with me. It should. By all measures, it should. So it really boils down to, what's the end game like, and is the gacha friendly, or is it hostile? Wuthering Waves, exactly the same. I have yet to participate in any of the beta tests for it. I really hope I get into the current beta test wave that they're doing. I don't think I got in though. I really want that to succeed. I want it to be as friendly as Punishing Gray Raven. You know, here's hoping. So I have a lot of hopes in the next few months for kind of games that are coming out. But they're not available right now, which is the issue. Raid Shadow Legends. No. No, boy. Maybe if they pay me a significant amount, but other than that, not happening. Before I play Yu-Gi-Oh! I've gotten away from a lot of the TCG games. I haven't actually... Okay. So, when I was a kid, a long time ago, I played Pokemon with the actual cards. I had Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and what was the third one? Yeah, it was MTG. I had some MTG as well. Never really got into MTG, never really got into Pokemon. A little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, but not really that either. But my TCG games that I played, the only ones I ever really played were the original Pokemon TCG game for, God, was it 98 or XP? It had a funky little disc, and it was old. It was like the first like Pokemon TCG English localized game. That one, that was like the first one I played, and the only other TCG game I played was a Yu-Gi-Oh game for the Game Boy Advance. I think I still have the cartridge somewhere, and I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. But it was the one that introduced the God cards, Ra, Obelisk, and Slifer. Yeah, I don't really do TCG games, so I can't see myself really being interested in Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay, one of my friends, not recently, this was probably 5 years ago, tried to get me into it again because he was like really big into Yu-Gi-Oh, and he's like, you gotta try this like online card building thing, because I know, like, as I was telling him, I don't like buying the cards, right? It's such a shittier version of Gacha. And he's like, no, there's this website, you can build your deck, you don't have to worry about you know, buying cards, and you can just play with your friends. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. Hook me up. So you've probably done it before, where you try to introduce a friend of yours to a game that you really, really like, but you just go and shit stomp them because, you know, it's just funny to do. He did that to me, but if you've ever played Yu-Gi-Oh, more modern Yu-Gi-Oh, there's like the 0 turn absolute shit stomp hands, and that's what he did to me. So before I could even do anything, the man is just there like, I play this, I sacrifice this, I play this, I sacrifice that, I search through my deck, I pull this, sacrifice that. Turn 1 just slaps down like this unbelievably powerful monster, just lines up his row. He's like, and now it's your turn. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I don't even want to play. This is garbage. Like, what the fuck is this? Right? So Yu-Gi-Oh, no. Not happening. I'm still waiting here, vibrating for the PGR PC client. Okay, the PGR PC client is so fucking crisp, man. That it runs so smooth. I'm really, really happy for that. I stopped playing PGR a while ago because it just, between what's going on in life, Grand Blue Fantasy, a little bit of Fate Grand Order and stuff, I just don't really have the time to dedicate to do PGR daily and remember about it. So I stopped, but it will forever be cemented as honestly one of my favorite mobile games. The best combat I've ever experienced, the most friendly gacha that I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with in my entire life. The weekly missions to earn gacha currency are unbelievably like casual and available to free-to-play players all the time. Honestly, I'm just amazed that they have such a concrete, solid game with PGR. It's so good. But it is also very much a skill dependent game. If you're not skilled at it, you're not going to get the same returns. And, you know, that's just kind of the way it be. I have 2 of those GBA games, that exact one. Yeah, it's when I bought it, it was a relatively popular Yu-Gi-Oh game. Yeah. God, I love some of the Game Boy Advance games. Grand Blue took some souls this anniversary, dude. The Grand Blue anniversary this year was crazy. Oh boy. See ya, Jun. It's nice been having you around, buddy. Yeah, oh man. Oh. I feel like looking at the gacha games that are available right now, I just don't feel really that much of like a connection to anyone. There's been very few, because I remember a couple of years ago, I kind of had this whole mentality of, you know, a new gacha game comes out, I'll do like an impressions thing of it and I'll talk about it. But I found out very quickly after doing that for a few games, some of them I never even posted on my YouTube channel, there's just so many bad or mediocre, honestly, like gacha games coming out. It felt like a colossal waste of my time to download, you know, like a, 300 megabyte game client, a 7 gigabyte patch day one to get all the assets to it, play it for like 2 hours, and it's just like, this game is absolutely terrible. The controls are bad, the UI is miserable, the tutorial is garbage, right? Like all these complaints about it, it just didn't feel like it was really worth my time to keep doing that. And there were only a few games that I really felt positive about. Right? When I'm looking at it now, same deal, right? I look at the new games that are releasing, and they're just either effectively clones of what's successful, or they're just bad. And it just kind of sucks. It's just like a bad place to be in. GBO2 can be fun, community can be pretty toxic like other PvP games. So like, I have yet to have a negative experience with GBO2. Every single time that I have played it, I have had fun. Right? Whether it was playing on my PS4, doing that initial, you know, impressions kind of thing I did for it, where it was just nothing but fun from start to finish. Whether it was the first open beta test I got to play for it, where there were some problems, but it kind of resolved itself, and again, nothing but fun. I guess I just haven't been exposed to the community enough, but overall with GBO2, I find it fun. And I guess it's also like, I played Dota. I still occasionally play Dota. I have almost 6,000 hours in Dota 2. And I think after the level of exposure to just toxic mindsets that game is like given to me, it's very difficult for me to really see an in-game chat and get tilted or anything. It's just like, well, anything you type I've seen hundreds of times at this point. There is no string of words you can put together that I have not heard already in some form of insult. It's just not happening, right? So I don't know, it's, even if I was exposed to absolute sheer toxicity, I don't know if I'd even really recognize it. It's just kind of like day is normal, honestly. There are very, very few that aren't trying to get it. Yeah, okay, so another game, I wanted to like it. So you guys may know about the manga slash anime slash light novel series, Eminence in Shadow. I find it to be an absolutely just top tier read. Watch, whatever. It's goofy. It's got unbelievably high quality art on it. The characters are hilarious. It's great. I love it. when they released a mobile game for it, I was super excited. It had unbelievably high quality 3D models. Tons of work was put into the animations for it. There was just so many positives about it at a surface level. I was just hyped. But then I started playing it, and it fell apart very quickly. The game is more or less reliant on you having certain characters. You need to grind a ton to progress anywhere. There's just the gacha game, like the gacha currency game, was so unbelievably poor. You had to pay in order to actually get anything in the gacha. The rates were miserable. All these issues, right? And it kills me seeing that kind of stuff, because I know it's not a one-off thing, right? Like, as you said, it happens in so many games. It's just like a cash grab. And it's just so hard to tell, because you can look at something and it's just super high quality, and then it's just crap, right? Have to take off. Looking for the next review. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming around and stuff. And yeah, I'll keep doing content. Just gotta figure out what. Couple ideals gachas we can cast areas fails milking the concurrence. Yeah, it's like if I go to my home, well, not my home screen, if I go to my desktop here, you can kind of get an idea of the different mobile games. I haven't uninstalled a lot of them, mind you. So we have Pokemon Masters EX. I don't actually play it. I literally log in, present claim, and I'm just waiting for a rerun of a character I like to get them, and then I'm uninstalling the game until a new version of them comes out. That's pretty much how I treat Pokemon Masters. It's literally, for me, it's a Cynthia collector. That's all I care about. You have Fate Grand Order. I've been playing that since the game launched. The chance of me dropping it, extremely low. I don't even think I could drop it if I wanted to at this point. We have Tower of Fantasy. That's just been sitting there forever now. I haven't actually turned it on in a hot minute. Yeah, Punishing Grey Raven. Again, I only stopped it because I just didn't have time to play it anymore. Azure Lane. A lot like Pokemon Masters, it's only there because I like collecting Iron Blood. That pretty much sums it up. I like the designs, and I always have enough cubes laying around to guarantee a UR Spark. Grand Blue Fantasy is Grand Blue Fantasy. Neural Cloud. It just got too try hard for me, I think, is the way to put it. Started off very casual, very full auto friendly, but then I started running into issues, and my buddy was like, "Oh yeah, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta line up your units like this, take advantage of this and that." And I'm like, screw this, man. I wanted just like an AFK game, and this ain't doing it for me anymore. And then obviously GBM, but like, if you look at the release dates for these games, right, like, it's so rare to find games releasing in close proximity for each other that have staying power. Because I think really outside of this, there's what? Girls Frontline, Blue Archive, Genshin Impact, Uma Musume, which is Japan only still. They're getting some other region clients right now. One Piece Treasure Cruise, I think, is still popping. Dokkan Battle. Yeah, most of these are either based off of a major IP, or they did really well for themselves through gameplay or other stuff. Right? Like, it's rare to find a good game. Epic 7 is still hanging. God, it's still alive? Jesus. Everyone I heard is just complaining about that game, so I'm kind of shocked it's still working. Yeah. Hey Snow, welcome to the end of service, me rolling on my Haro stream and talking about other stuff. man. Race my shoulder's killing me. But yeah. Finding a replacement for this is gonna be rough. That's pretty much all I've come to terms with for this. I don't know of anything else that updates as regularly and consistently as this, so. Is there a multiplier for the current event? That's a good question. I'm going to assume probably not, because there's no point for multipliers now. But I didn't read the patch notes. Again, I saw the notice of termination, and that was it. I was just like, clocking out effectively. I can start reclaiming those 2 hours every Tuesday night back, and then replace it with something else. Gundam is so Gundam as an IP is still where it was. Gundam Breaker Mobile, the mobile game, is terminating service. You can see the notice there on the right side. It's gonna be a long stream. It's not gonna be that bad. It's 500 per. I've got what? 10, 20. I've got like 30 more multis in me effectively. So there will be a finite amount of rolls. And literally as soon as I'm done this, I'm popping over to go back to my content creation for tomorrow. I actually might need to end this sooner. We've already hit an hour and 20 minutes. I was hoping to get this done within an hour and a half. But I do need to get back to content creation because it goes live tomorrow, and I still need to get everything okay. So it's, yeah. Fun stuff. Like I said, I'll probably do a GBO2 stream tomorrow, just kind of chat it up, talk a little bit. But this will be the last GBM stream, so. See if we can make a spike. So, here's the thing, right? And I know some bigger content creators have rather recently put out their thoughts on this, but it's very true, and they definitely do speak nothing but true facts. Gundam is extremely intimidating to get into as someone that's never like gotten into the franchise before. My brother is actually like a casual normie, right? And he doesn't really know what to start with Gundam, even though him and I both kind of grew up watching Gundam scene. So you have this IP that's been running for decades. It has dozens of series within it, multiple timelines, all of these established characters and tropes and all these things. And if you're someone new to a series and you go, oh yeah, you know, let's see this. It's the same as someone that's never watched Dragon Ball Z that wants to get into it. Where do you start? Right? Do you watch Dragon Ball? Do you watch Dragon Ball Z? Dragon Ball GT? Where do you start with this? Do you need to watch all the movies as well? Do you have to watch like all the different like side episode stuff? Like, where do you start? And there's also just so much content involved, right? You have the feel the game's a little loud. All right, sorry, let me turn it down a little bit. Right, you have like just hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of hours of content for someone to watch and sift through, and that's very intimidating, right? Gundam is really bad for that. The thing is, and this is very important to note, the other uphill that Gundam has is that it's a mecha show. Mecha is already a very niche series thing into itself. Dragon Ball is a lot more approachable because it's got, you know, martial arts, it's got all other aspects to it. But for Gundam, you have to be a fan of science fiction, effectively. And there's a lot of people that don't like sci-fi. They prefer fantasy-related stuff, right? Stuff that doesn't involve mechas, lasers, space, all these kinds of things. They'd rather a smaller scale, and that's perfectly fine. But Gundam having such a storied history, being all about sci-fi, mechas, this very niche topic in itself, right? And it can be very difficult for someone to kind of dip their toes in. And it's... Witch of Mercury is really no different. If I took Witch of Mercury and showed it to a bunch of my friends that have never watched Gundam before, right? I don't even think it's a good series to have them start with, because it's like, oh yeah, you know, a child is, you know, that's not even like out of the academy, right? It's kind of what it's about, you know, a very young girl, and they'll be like, that's a little weird, right? You show them something a little potentially more, not contemporary, but something probably a little more basic. You know, something like maybe Gundam 00. You have your mercenary main character, you know, dark, brooding, all that kind of thing. You got your, you know, open, charismatic characters. You have your super logical characters. You got really good mech designs, modern art style. You have a very well-designed world. All right, something that people new to the series can kind of bite their teeth into, as long as they understand it has no connection to anything else. You know, Gundam's more or less self-contained. There's very few instances where there are sequels. Almost everything is kind of built in its own little bubble. And, you know, if you show them that, they're more likely, I'd say, to watch it than something with Witch of Mercury. Purely because, again, this is personal bias and opinion here from the people I know that watch anime. It's a lot easier to sell them on a series that has older male characters doing stuff, but that's also kind of the age bracket I'm in. I'm not in the younger age bracket anymore that wants the young teen protagonist, that wants, you know, that kind of thing. But Witch of Mercury is good. Now, don't get me wrong. For what Gundam is, it does it very well. But I think trying to bring in new fans to Gundam through Witch of Mercury, that's kind of like a mixed bag of results, honestly. I think you're better off introducing them to something more, more associated with common tropes. Right? That's why we always see these isekai shows do so well, right? Is they know their audience, they know the tropes they need to play in on, right? They all almost have the exact same tags these days when you search them on any kind of indexing site, and it's because they know what their audience wants. Gundam is also very much the same. They have a very set amount of tags that really work, and then they're just kind of mixing up a couple of them here and there for the different series. Fans of Gundam absolutely love it. Good. Fans, or not fans, but people that may want to get into it might look at it a little. So, yeah. I don't know, I wish I could get more people into Gundam and get like a bigger following base for it, but I can understand why people don't want to. It's such an intimidating franchise to get into. Same with One Piece, same with Dragon Ball Z, same with, you know, if someone hasn't watched Naruto at all, literally the exact same thing there. Bleach, all these long-running series and IPs, right? Try sitting somebody down and going, hey man, I know that One Piece has over 1,000 chapters, but you should read it. It gets really good, you know, chapter 450, and they're just like, no. You know, Dragon Ball Z, oh man, you'll love it. You just have to watch, you know, the first 100 episodes of the first series, and then you gotta watch, you know, 25 of the second series, and you're gonna love it. It's like, no. I'm kind of sad they never had a banner like this before they announced EOS, kind of like something like an anniversary thing where you get like 5 rolls or something with Haro, and then the rest of them have to be paid, but you just get like a stupid rate up on high value parts. That'd be cool. Just do a me and skip to that episode. Yeah, so see, that works really well until it's like a heavily story driven moment, and then you're just kind of left floundering because you have no idea what's going on. Right? For example, a great example, because I recently just did not a redo of it, but I started going back through some key Naruto stuff. If you just decided to go to that big moment again, and spoilers, if you go to that moment in Naruto where Pain attacks Konoha Village and absolutely flattens it, if you watch that entire block, because there's a lot of character development there, there's some big points to be made in that. A friend goes, you need to watch that. It's very emotionally driven. It really kind of shows the villains and everything in a different light. And you just skip to that, you have no fucking idea what's going on. What the hell is Konoha Village? Why the fuck does this guy have circles in his eyes? What are all these people doing? How is he able to create an asteroid in the air like that? Right? You just completely over your head. But there are some series where it works because they don't have 300 episodes leading up to that. I think Gundam has a few good entry points. Yeah, I'm not saying that there's only one or two good. Gundam has so many good places to start, but it fully depends on the person that's going to start watching. I think that's one of the biggest issues people have when trying to recommend Gundam to someone that's like never watched it before, right? They'll recommend their favorite, or they'll recommend the community's favorite. But what you should do is ask your friend, what kind of anime do you watch? And you should give them a Gundam based on that, because I can almost guarantee you there will be a Gundam series that ticks enough boxes for them for it to feel familiar, but Gundam. And that's kind of where you want to find that sweet spot, right? You want to make sure that it's not so jarringly different than what they're used to, right? Like, for example, if someone tells you, oh yeah, man, I really like watching, more like high fantasy style stuff, but I kind of want to try this mech thing out. I probably wouldn't go, hey, you should watch Iron-Blooded Orphans. That's the furthest thing from any kind of series that they've watched in their life. You probably want to stay away from that, right? If you're someone's like, oh man, I really enjoyed Dragon Ball, or I really enjoyed Kenichi, right? Yeah, okay, you know what? I think G Gundam might work for you a little better, right? You got to kind of match up their tastes. I just give, for example, Double O. I think that's a good starting point because it covers a lot of bases. It has relatively modern art, and the story's pretty easy to follow along. But if the person that's watching it doesn't like certain aspects of what it does, because there are some very specific things Gundam 00 does that other series don't, they're not going to like it. And I wouldn't, as a general, like, probably they would like this, sure. But you're better off just figuring out what they like and just finding one of the series that ticks their boxes for them. Oh, they love retro anime. They love it to death. They're the kind of guy that has every single, series of Astro Boy on VHS or something. You give them the original Gundam and watch them have fun, right? In the end, beam ranged funnels are never fixed. Yeah, I think that's a really heartbreaking thing. Over all the years I've talked about how bad beam funnels are and how many times it's been brought up, never got fixed. Beam funnels have always been busted, and now they end on a busted note. Heartbreak. The day before end of service, beam funnels fixed. Oh. Maybe I'll ask them if they can do that, even as a joke patch note, just to have a good laugh about it later. The melee funnels are... well, the melee funnels have always been really powerful, right? They use the melee modifier for their damage, so it's not terribly shocking. Wish we could get refunds. So, like... I probably, like... I feel like if you submit a refund request ticket for something that you've purchased in the last like 30 days and just cite like end of service as a reason, you might get a refund. I wouldn't gamble on it though. The only time I've ever personally successfully got a refund, God, it was years ago. It was like 6, 7 years ago. I got a refund for Fate Grand Order, but outside of that, I've never really been successful at getting refunds. Once you spend, that's it. Spend wisely. But yeah, that's also why I never signed up for the rat. So I played Sinoalis. Like, I did the tutorial videos when the game first released, and I played a lot of Sinoalis. I was part of a really competitive guild for Coliseum. Thing is, though, I realized really quickly that the rat race was just atrocious, and I was spending not a lot of money, because I really did my best to not spend money in Sinoalis, but I was spending a lot of time grinding currency in that game that I could have done on other stuff, and I wasn't really lucking out all the time. And because of that, I feel like I've just really, whenever I see a game that starts forcing down a rat race, I just don't want any part of it, right? This game, I started saying it over a year ago. You know, all of these new parts, the power creep, it's just a rat race. There's no point trying to chase it, because as soon as you catch up, everyone's already further ahead because something new has come out that's even better. And it's just, there's no point. So I never spent any money after that point. Well, outside of people donating to have me roll in this game, I never spent money. And it was really just a case of like, whenever I see a game, you know, gun to the head rat race gacha stuff, I don't spend a dime. The only things I'll ever spend on those types of games are like costumes or stuff, but it's burned me enough. I just don't think it's worth it. Hey, Expo. Tis the gacha and the gacha, because the money's gonna be void. So one thing that's really important, and Transporter kind of hits on it there. Whenever you're putting money into a digital product, you have to realize that you are not getting a physical item in your hand. There is always the chance that the service that is supplying you with this digital product you have paid for will not be available, and your purchase will be gone. If you look at, for example, the Nintendo eShop from the Wii or from the 3DS, exactly the same shit there. I spent whatever amount of money it was to get Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past on my 3DS and my Wii. That is my favorite Zelda game of all time. Fight me. And I will have it on every single console I can permanently own it on. I haven't got it on the Switch because that's NSO, and I don't like subscription models to own a retro game. I'm sorry, I can't buy it outright. But even though I have paid for that game, I no longer own it digitally. If something happened to my Wii, I can no longer obtain that game. If something happened to my 3DS, I can no longer obtain that game. Right? You have to understand going into any digital service, even Steam. If something happened to Steam tomorrow and like a meteor hit its headquarters, blew up all of its data center stuff, and they lost all of the data, that's it. It's gone. You have no physical proof you owned any of these things. Maybe outside of a receipt you got emailed or something years and years and years ago that may or may not still be there if you haven't deleted it. Right? And you just have to keep that in mind. Gachas are even worse because you're paying for something on a service that could last 6 months, maybe a couple of years. You don't know, right? So you have to understand the risks before you start spending money on a mobile game. Right? The way I look at it, and the way I've always looked at it, at least after that FGO refund thing that happened, the second money goes into a mobile game, it's gone for good. You're never getting it back. It will never turn into anything physical or tangible you can ever touch again. That money could have gone to buying a figure. It could have gone to buying merch for your games. It could have gone to buying, some food, a really fancy lunch or something instead. But you spent it. It's gone. but I look at it as spending on a hobby, and that's kind of how I divide my money, right? You got your life expenses, you know, you got your safety net money, and then you got your hobby money. And I look at it like that, right? I don't buy a lot of Gundam figures, you know, the Gunpla. I don't buy Warhammer 40k models. I don't buy TCG stuff. I don't buy, you know, custom mice for my favorite game or whatever, even though I want to. Instead, my hobby money goes into sometimes Gacha, sometimes buying a new game on Steam, right? And to me, that's perfectly feasible. I know a lot of people give me shit for it, like, oh, you know, you get a hobby where you can actually physically own your stuff so you can sell it later. It's all going to be worthless eventually. It's all just plastic or cardboard, let's be real. Did they ever release a good 7-star Melee suit? They made a good handful of 7-star suits. Honestly, I'm not the one to ask about Melee suits at all. I never really did. That's like Dark Sukia's thing. He did nothing but Melee this game. I did a lot of shot stuff, but when it comes to 7 stars, I never really looked at the stats because it's 7-star. It was just better than everything else that was available, and it's just the way it is. So I wouldn't exactly know. I'm going to assume there was very good suits coming out for Melee, because there were very good suits coming out for Shot, so. Unless you're playing a Gacha mutant like Grand Blue, most money spent is 0 long-term return. See, that's even Grand Blue. I have yet to see anything I can spend real money on in the Grand Blue game and get something of physical, tangible value back. The sole exception to this is during like anniversary roulettes where you might win a trip to some place in Japan, but those are only claimable if you're in Japan to begin with, so that really limits kind of the viability of that. Outside of that though, like it's almost like every other game. They have their merch stores and all that stuff. But I will say Grand Blue, in my opinion, does give the best bang for your buck in terms of every dollar spent. In most mobile games, if I wanted to get the skin of a character that cost real money in the cash shop, I would pay, I would get the skin, that's the end of the transaction. In Grand Blue Fantasy, you buy the skin, and then on top of that, they give you a token that allows you to do a 10 draw on the gacha at any point of your choosing. So if you're someone that likes certain characters and you buy their outfits, you are literally buying a 10 roll and getting a costume as a +1 onto that. And I think that is just amazing value. Because you gotta remember, typically, like, even though, like, I think Azure Lane's a good example of this, right? If I wanted a brand new outfit for a character, it's gonna cost like what? It's like 600 to 800 gems or something. Right, that's like, in my currency, it's like 15, 16 bucks or something, maybe a little more than that because of inflation these days. I haven't actually checked Azure Lane in forever, but I'm going to assume it's kind of up in that bracket, right? But you only get the costume. It's not live 2D, there's no effect changes, it's just like a basic skin. If you want the fancy ones that do all that, has like 1,200 gems, and that's going to cost you 23, 24 bucks. So when I look at Grand Blue, I'm paying more or less the same amount. I'm paying, I think it's around like $28, $30, kind of, so a few bucks more. But I get a skin that changes the animations a good chunk of the time because all the costumes cost the same, whether or not they change effects. So let's say I buy one that does. I'm getting something that changes all of my characters' effects. It changes the art behind their special attack. It adds new art to my home screen for them, which is kind of standard. Potentially new voice lines, potentially home screen background music as well, right? All these things. But on top of all that value, they then also go, and here's a 10 roll. So if I compare it to a normal game, or not a normal game, but another free-to-play friendly game like Azure Lane, or Girls Frontline, or that's really all that's coming to the top of my head right now. It's getting late. But anyways, I'm getting just so much more value out of it, right? That's, I love Grand Blue for that, right? And obviously on top of all the free roulette stuff that they do year after year. I was more referencing the length of service. 9 years is enough time where I feel I didn't burn my money. So I guess that's... When I look at spending money on a mobile game, like I said, I look at it as completely... I'm never getting that money back. It's completely sunk cost. I'll never see a return on it. I look at it very equivalent to subscriptions for MMOs. The same mental kind of map going on. In an MMO like Final Fantasy 14, I love Final Fantasy 14. I get hours of fun on that every week. Great FC, lots of rating and stuff. I love it. I pay a relatively small monthly fee for this game. When I look at a gacha game like Grand Blue Fantasy, right, the only time I really ever spend on it is the surprise tickets we get every like 3 months or something, and like anniversary ticket and the anniversary like gacha related stuff, because they're super discounted, right, if they're there. So let's say in a year I'll spend maybe $170 on Grand Blue Fantasy or something like that, maybe, if I buy like the surprise tickets and like keep spending low, don't do the scamchas or anything. Right? It sounds like a lot, right, to some people, you know, like $170, you know, to play Grand Blue a year. But if you break that down to a subscription fee, yeah, it's, what, $14 change, around that ballpark, pretty much the same as a Final Fantasy subscription to begin with in my currency, right? Like, it works out. And I look at it as kind of a, you know, even though I don't have to pay this fee, I'm getting at least as much enjoyment out of Grand Blue in that year span as I am Final Fantasy, if not more, because mobile games typically have much more condensed like dopamine cycles to make sure you stay attached and playing them. So to me, when I'm playing Grand Blue and I throw, you know, like $100 at it or something at anniversary for a couple of costumes, you know, this, that, the other thing, to me, absolutely worth every single penny, because I'm getting so much out of this, right? And that's how I validate it, right? Everyone does it different. Star Ocean and Nemesis was far free to play friendly. That game was so good. I love that game. It had some of the best multiplayer for a mobile game. The quality of the models was just mind-blowing. It was fun, and you are right. It was so free to play friendly. It not even funny. That is one of those games that I feel, I'm not going to say mismanaged, because that's not fair. That game was very well managed. The problem was they didn't have enough monetization when they were looking at how to balance stuff out. They really needed to change it at a fundamental level to really make those monetization practices that they wanted shine, and they didn't. And a lot like Tales of the Rays Global, a bad decision early on led to it dying, but the actual management when the game went live with the bug fixes, the updates, the communication, no complaints. It was really just a scenario, literally Tales of the Rays tier, where they really did not consider monetization beforehand and long term, and it led to the game dying. And sometimes Yukata is our history. Okay, so we're not going to talk about Yukata Ilsa. She's a spicy tamale, let me tell you what. Do you think they'll add in the pilot gacha? Honestly, Miguel, anything goes. They could add just a way to directly pick pilots that you want at max level, because it's EOS. They've closed the horror shop. We can't really do much in terms of spending money anymore, right? So with that in mind, right, it would make sense to them just go, fine, you know, here's like all the stuff, just take what you want and play with it in the last, like, you know, month and a half, 2 months of service. All right, Dallum, calm down. No horny on main. There are so many games I've played over the years that I really wanted to just see persist, but for one reason or another, it just never panned out. The games just didn't. It just didn't work, and it sucks because some of them were just so good, so good, and one reason or another, right? They couldn't continue in the EOS, and I understand. I think the one I'm most regretful about, honestly, is Tales of the Rays. I love Tales a lot. It is a franchise that I have played since Tales of Symphonia. I reached a little further back into the timeline at some point later and played some of the earlier games, but there's still some I haven't touched. But ever since Symphonia, I've played every single Tales game I've been able to get my hands on. And Tales of the Rays, I played the Japanese version at first, and I played it for a short while. And then they announced the English version. And I was over the moon. I was so happy. The game stayed true to the Tales LMBS battle system. It had really cool character choice. The special attacks were great. The gacha was, for what it was, honestly, like, it felt really good. You could earn enough currency to get what you wanted with some effort, but not, back-breaking amounts. And it was fun. And I think that's the most important part. It felt like a Tales game. It was fun. That's really good. So when the English version was announced, I was super happy. I immediately downloaded it, played it from day one, and I was saving every single little thing I could for that. The problem was, when they released the English version, if you guys ever played Tales of the Rays, global, the Japanese version, you'll know. But what they had done was, in the Japanese version, there were two gacha currencies. You had the game farmable shards that you could get, and that was your gacha currency, right? You could get it through events, the shops and stuff, clearing content, all these methods. And then you had, I think it was mirror gems they were called, whatever. They're the big rainbow crystals, the premium currency. You could only get them by shelling out that dosh, right? And what they did was, every time there was a character banner, they would have two different versions of it. You would have the normal gacha banner that used the farmable currency. It had decent rates, all this stuff. And then you had the premium version of the banner, super high rates. Like, I think they were doubled rates. They had way better returns. You're effectively guaranteed a certain rarity of item or higher every time. There are all these advantages to rolling it. You could also get a guaranteed characters through, like, buy this pack, guarantee one of these three characters kind of things, right? It was really, really well thought out the way they had done that. When the North American version released, they just axed that farmable currency altogether. They said only the premium version exists, but not the way you're thinking. The premium version became the farmable gacha currency now. So instead of farming the small little shards and only being able to buy the big shiny crystals, you could only get the big shiny crystals whether you spent money or farmed the game. And it gave you a significant amount. And that's where the problem came in. They never rebalanced any aspect of the game to separate paid shiny gacha currency to the stuff you had farmed. So when a banner released, you had effectively only premium rates available, and you had guaranteed character banners that showed up. You didn't have to spend a dime. Every time a new character came out, right, or they had a special premium banner that was like, hey, these super high demand characters, you can get one of them for guaranteed if you just, use like 2,000 of your farmed crystals, which was less than a gacha roll was worth. You're like, yeah, sure, take it. And they would just spit out these high rarity items at you like nobody's business. There was no incentive to spend. They completely, kneecapped their own stuff. And while I appreciated it as a free-to-play player, I understand why the game failed. It was very obvious. There was zero reason to ever spend a dime when all you had to do was play the game, and you were treated like royalty because the Japanese version of the game was very much, geared towards more free currency than the premium stuff. It was a very interesting choice by management. And I killed the game. And I was really sad about that because Tales of the Rays, even though I continued playing the Japanese version after the English version EOS, the story became very important. And I wanted to learn how the characters were interacting because I heard from people that understood the language and the cutscenes and stuff. They were really enjoying the character development and stuff and the interactions. And I never got to experience that because my knowledge of Japanese isn't nearly good enough to cover something like that. So it just sucked, and eventually I did drop Tales of the Rays because it just got to the point where the menus were starting to become very cluttered with stuff, and because I really don't understand the language and the wiki at the time wasn't very well maintained, there was no real way to keep up with new mechanics and content and stuff without constantly scouring through other sources of information. And at that point, it's like I'm spending more time reading up on these things than actually playing the game. It just wasn't worth it. Yeah. It's a shame. And then, of course, after Tales of the Rays, right, we had Crestoria. We all know what happened with that. Tales of Luminaria. I really, really wanted Tales of Luminaria to do well. That game was really nice, but their monetization was very much rat race, and because you only had X amount of characters, and most of the cosmetics were locked behind, gatching stuff, it didn't really feel that great. And it obviously didn't do, it closed before its first anniversary, which was really depressing because I liked it a lot. Halloween characters were great. Yeah, no, Star Ocean and Nemesis had really, really just a high quality feel to it. That game deserved so much better than it got, straight up. After the stream, are you going to uninstall the game? Most likely, yes. In all honesty, as much as I want to keep this game installed, all my horror is gone. It's EOS. I don't plan on making any more stream content for it. I'm going to pivot away to try to do other stuff now. And I do thoroughly appreciate that this game is kind of what got me my viewer base, got my channel really started. I do have to move on eventually. If this game was continuing, I would keep doing it, but there's no point keeping it installed if I'm not going to do content. If I have it on there, right, I'll have less incentive to pivot. Give me just a second here. Hopefully soon a better Gunpla game with less or no gacha. You're effectively talking about Gundam Breaker. That'd be neat. We'll see what happens. I'm just, yeah. God, almost 2 hours. I said I'd stop this at an hour and a half, and I started talking, and now we're way past that point. Oh, I'm not gonna have that stuff finished right tomorrow. Oh! I've already done like all the audio recording, all the footage recording and stuff. Now it's just splicing it together in a video editor. But that part always takes the longest. Which is kind of surprising, honestly. But yeah. I need to get a better process, I think, set up for creating my videos. Just play a Gundam console game if you want that. Yeah. I don't know. Like, here's the thing, right? As much as I dislike the premise of mobile games, because I don't like the predatory practices a lot of them follow, I'm not a big fan of like the whole rat race mentality and the FOMO and stuff. I also understand from a content creator point of view, they are ideal, right? They don't require a ton of time investment. They update relatively frequently, so you always have something to discuss. They'll have new story content added relatively often because it's a live service game, right? All these little things, and I understand that. It's just from a longevity point of view, they don't last for very long. Oh no, my connection to the game server's dead. There we go. What was your favorite suit in the game? Kshatriya, hands down, no question. Not even for gameplay, just because I love the Kshatriya. That's actually one of the mobile suits I'm going to be trying for extremely hard in GBO2. I'm going to see if I can poke and prod the Bandai guys that I know hard enough to give me a Kshatriya in-game. Or at least run the banner for me so I have a chance. Yeah. Oh boy. Lots of good memories with this game, that's for sure. I still remember sitting on my front porch rolling the Denial Gundam. That was a day. Man. It's been almost 4 years, Jesus. Alright, I think we're going to start hitting skip, because I do want to wrap this stream up here. Oh, look at that, would ya? A Kshatriya. Happy boy. Yeah, we still have like 10 gacha rolls to go through here. Well, a little more than that. I think 12 left because of how many currency I got. But, yeah. Now, is that the Darrowbald? I actually wonder if I managed to get a full Darrowbald. I might have, actually. I would need to double check, but I don't want to look through my entire gift box because I can't sort that alphabetically. Oh, I guess with those exclusive parts tickets, I can just pick it all if I wanted to, so... Physical bazookas, please no. I don't know if I would say this is the better version of the Blitz. I would like, okay, flat out, yes, it's better. But like I said when I originally looked at the new version, I feel like they still really didn't do its core mechanic justice. Because it's also really hard to do in this style of game with like the auto lock on and stuff. But I feel like when it came to the Blitz, its invisibility was literally the de facto ability, right? It was the reason that it was so scary. None of its weapons were, it was purely the fact that it had the Mirage Colloid and it can go invisible. At the time that it was shown off, that was like groundbreaking technology. It was really hard to figure out how to counter it. Even the most cutting edge warship that was designed to have that mobile suit on board didn't have countermeasures to it. That's how like amazing it was. But the game was just kind of like, yeah, you turn invisible, but they can still kind of aim at you. If they're an AI, they might not. I just feel like that was a huge letdown. And they kind of did it justice with the upgraded version that we recently got, where they made the counter kind of a Mirage Colloid cutscene kind of dealio, and that's neat. But yeah, to be fair, the suit itself did not lend itself well to this game. The way that the mechanics work, it really was not going to work out well. But yeah. All right, and the last multi. All right, what do we got? Those are Banshee arms, aren't they? Yeah, Banshee arm 1. Who the heck are you again? Zabanya. For some reason, my brain was saying Virtue. Well, that's close enough, right? Code Sora. Dual pistols. The GN from the Estrella F2. Okay. Double O Riser. That's dual, isn't it? Nope. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Not gonna try. GN Gundam. Alright. Actually, I want to see that transient part again. Yeah. We never got a Xant build project pilot. That would have been hilarious, honestly, but I never got big enough to really warrant that. Would have been neat, but you got knocked out of the counter seat. Was ways. Counter EX skills were interesting. You are right on that. They never really got leveraged, but that's kind of the way like a lot of things ended up, right? Yeah, I won't show these unless I have them in my inventory. All right. Well, gang, with that, we're done. That's Gundam Breaker Mobile in a nutshell. This will be my last video on it. Dedicated to it, I should say. I may still talk about it in the future. It's been a fun almost 4 years with the game. I really hope that, although the termination was sudden, you guys hopefully kind of understand that it's kind of how gacha games work. I would recommend for anyone looking for a future Gundam experience, if you're coming off of the mobile game, Gundam Battle Operation 2, that's available on the PlayStation consoles. It's available on Steam right now as an open beta test. It's due to release probably this year. I hope, please. Beyond that, there's SD Gundam Battle Alliance. Not quite the same as this, but should still give you a good Gundam fix. And I think beyond that, Gundam Evolution. That's much more of an arcade shooter kind of thing, but still Gundam. And honestly, like, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Anyways, peace out, guys. And I will see all of you probably tomorrow in a GBO2 stream. If not, it will be relatively soon. I do need to think of some new content to start streaming. Yeah, catch me on my Discord if you want to chat. That'll be in the description once this turns into a VOD. It should actually already be in the description. I'm on there. I'm pretty much active all the time. Yeah. Peace out, GBM. Peace out, everyone. And I'll see you in the next one.